Welcome back to talknorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. talknorth.com is powered by Bite Squad. Go to bitesquad.com or download their app. Get food to your door in minutes. Use the promo code TALKNORTH to get your first delivery free. Talk North gets you your first delivery free. Michael Russo is in San Francisco. San Francisco, right, Michael?
No, San Jose.
San Jose.
I was in San Francisco.
Right. Hard to keep up with Michael on this long road trip. We are going to catch up with Michael, though. This is the Russo-Souhan Show, part of the talknorth.com podcast network. Thanks to all of our sponsors, including Twill in the Edina Galleria, where I went shopping on Saturday, WizKids.tech in downtown Minneapolis, Delano's Pizza, BiteSquad.com, The Athletic, Fixology Repair, and Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Thanks to our producer, Brandon Morton. Please download before you listen. It's a better listening experience. And if you'd like to advertise the program, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. Michael, before we get to wild news, it's a pretty interesting day around the NHL. Joel Quenneville gets fired, and we learn that you should never say anything about your bosses when you're in an Uber.
Yeah, it's just an unbelievable story, and part of me feels really bad for these 7 players of the Ottawa Senators that were secretly recorded while they were in an Uber in Arizona at the end of October. We all get into these Ubers and Lyfts these days, and a lot of these drivers, understandably, have video cameras there to protect themselves. I mean, it's their personal car, and they don't know who's getting in, and so it's I think a form of protection. But this guy absolutely violated the privacy of these Ottawa players. They get in, like a lot of us do, and essentially ripped on the bosses. I mean, the Ottawa Senators are a horrific hockey team, and they got in and do what a lot of players do, and that's, rip on the coaches, rip on the team's play, rip on everything. And this guy recorded it and then actually put it out both on Twitter and YouTube, and it's gone viral since, and it's created another embarrassing situation for the most embarrassing franchise in professional hockey right now, the Ottawa Senators. And again, I feel bad for these guys because there's an expectation of privacy in there, but I think it's a learning lesson to us all. I mean, we all say stuff with the expectation that everything we say is off the record, especially in the privacy of an Uber or sitting at a dining room table or just shooting the breeze. I mean, we all do it, and this guy taped it and put it out there, and it's created an unbelievably awkward situation. If you haven't seen it, I'll be honest, I haven't watched the video because I started watching it and it was so uncomfortable that I didn't even want to hear it. I just read the article and saw what was said. And of course, Matt Duchene was at the forefront of this, proving yet again that he's just, there's a problem there with that guy. This is an interesting thing with Duchene. He basically gets traded out of Colorado. They take off after one. It's created this perception out there that he is kind of a cancer in the room. Then you put him in an Uber with 7 guys, and he's kind of leading the rip job of Marty Raymond, their assistant coach, and he's sitting next to a prospect that has since been sent back to juniors. So it also shows that he's not the greatest influence on young guys. And now he's going to be a free agent this year. And I got to think that a lot of GMs and coaches are not going to want somebody like this in their room. And so we'll see what this does to his free agent thing, but it's going to create an awkward situation for the Ottawa Senators. If you haven't seen the video, I mean, they essentially, Jim, make fun of the way this guy does video instructions during penalty kill, doesn't change anything. So I got to think that today, a home game against the New Jersey Devils, it's going to create an unbelievable awkward situation.
Absolutely. And like you, I think there are two. I mean, my first reaction was okay, this is pretty funny. And then I started thinking about it, and I reacted the way you did. There are two lessons here. Number one is none of us have any privacy anywhere we go anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, we really don't.
Crazy.
And the other thing is, and this is a lesson you can draw from this without just completely obliterating these players for just having their own thoughts in their own private time. And that is, as sports writers, we know that there are a lot of layers to every situation, every clubhouse situation, every organizational situation. So just, and I think we're lucky on this podcast. We have very savvy fans who get it. Otherwise, they wouldn't want to listen to it. But, if you're a sports fan out there and you think every time a player says, acts like everything's perfect in his organization, perfect in his locker room, everybody has perfect relationships with the coaches and their teammates, it's all just a big family. Just remember this, use this as that teaching lesson. It is like a family. It's like all these teams are like families that have family problems and rivalries and regrets and anger issues. I mean, that's the kind of family sports teams are. They're very complex organizations.
Yeah, no doubt. Could you imagine if Brandon put out the open mics of before we go on the air? That'd be embarrassing for all.
I think he does actually.
But I mean, it's a learning lesson to me. I mean, how many times do we turn off the mics at a live podcast and then you start shooting the breeze with fans and you start saying things and you never know.
Here's the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, and we do that all the time. I mean, yeah, I sit there every night and sit there with writers or broadcasters and you talk openly about players. Somebody had a great tweet today that said the real news would have been a video of the players praising coaches.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, trust me. When I shoot the breeze with players all the time, things are said that you would never ever want at that player for Bruce Boudreau or somebody to hear. And the coaches do it too. I mean, what do you think the coaches are saying in that coaches room for the Ottawa Senators the other night when they lost the most embarrassing game in maybe the history that I've ever seen? There's 30 seconds left in the game. They're on a penalty kill, the Ottawa Senators, the other night against Tampa. They're up 3-2. All they got to do when they get the puck is clear the puck, the length of the ice, and the game is over. Again, it's a PK. And what do? 3 Senators start selfishly going for an empty net goal. Ryan McDonough strips them. One pass, another pass, boom, Braden Point ties the game, sends it into overtime, then they lose in overtime 14 seconds in. What do you think the coaches of the Ottawa Senators were saying about those selfish, embarrassing players? And so this stuff happens all the time on privately, and you have this belief that that stuff's never going to be heard by the general public, and then all of a sudden it is, and it changes the complexion those people think of you. But the reality is that we all do it. We all kind of say things that we would never say or write publicly, and unfortunately, in this case, they were sent out. And in terms of Uber. One, this guy needs to be fired. He should never work for them again. My guess is he's going to start driving around with like a Lyft now sign on his front. And then the other thing is I got to think this guy is about to get his life in ruins. I mean, these guys are going to sue the heck out of him because it is. I mean, Uber has already said this was against their terms and conditions, and that these players had the right to. Expect privacy in an Uber, but it just shows you that it's going to be a learning lesson for all these guys. They've got to be careful.
And it's funny because so much of sports media is people gathering around a player or a coach in a group, and everything's on the record, and everything's kind of the subject is trying not to say anything. Basically, it's a game. Us trying to get them to say something, them trying not to say anything, and it's all and a lot of media outlets are very happy to just take kind of the happy talk quote and take it back to their unit and run it on the air. And beat writers, because I did it and you do it, a lot of beat writing is trying to get people to tell you on the record what they've been telling you off the record for a long time. I mean, we know that this is what they think. We just can't get them to say it out loud.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know a lot of times, or they will say it out loud, but there's an expectation that they know that when they're talking to us off the record.
I don't mean out loud.
By the way,
I
Bruce
mean
does the same things. And Bruce does the same stuff. And just think of it, like, to me, it's like, look, again, I said what I said about Matt Duchene, and the reality is that, there's going to be a lot of GMs and coaches out there that look at him even on a more negative context because he's also showing that you don't want him in your room when he's sitting there with a young prospect and acting this way because it just shows that he's a bad influence. But I will say, think of this logically. You get 7, 8 players, even on a team right now that's as on fire as the Minnesota Wild, 7, 8 players going to dinner on a night that that there are things there that they're saying about teammates, coaches, beat writers, whatever, that they would never want aired publicly because they're just, shooting the breeze with their buddies at dinner. And that's just the reality. Just imagine you as a podcast listener right now going out with 7 or 8 of your coworkers. You think that everything that you would say there about your bosses would be something that you would ever say to, in a public setting or to their face? I mean, this is just kind of natural. I hate to say it, but
human nature.
We're all two-faced, and that's just life. But this should be a learning lesson to us all. I can't tell you how many times I'll just go out with buddies. And next thing you know, we're talking about the Wild, and I would say things about players that I would never want taped and put out there, and it creates obviously again a negative context about maybe if somebody ever heard that stuff about me. But the reality is that there's an expectation of privacy there, but it just shows you that in today's day and age, somebody next to you could just hit record and boom, things all of a sudden are pretty embarrassing.
There's a little more meat left on this bone. We want to talk about Quenneville. We want to talk about the Wild actually being a hot team on a very important road trip. Do want to thank Twill in the Edina Galleria, Scott Dayton shop. I went out there with Stacy on Saturday, and she made me buy nice clothes because she likes the way I look in Twill stuff. If they can make me look good, they can make anybody look good. I bought some Stenstrom shirts, bought a Stormwatch hat. We're going to do a live show with the Viking Update show out there sometime next week. And then the Russo-Souhan Show will be visiting Twill here also very soon. So check out Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, and Twill on Instagram.
Jim usually doesn't like to shop for clothes. I don't like it when he shops for clothes either, because he used to buy stuff I'd want to throw out. That's why I'm so glad he's found Twill in the Edina Galleria. He likes shopping there because of the comfortable environment and the friendly staff. He finds clothes that actually fit him properly and are high-quality brands that will look great for years, whether he's golfing or working. Our favorites so far are Peter Millar, Johnny O, and Barber. We spend our money at Twill because we love the clothes and we love the no-pressure shopping. Drop by Twill in the Edina Galleria for the best shopping experience and best clothes you'll find in the Twin Cities.
The other thing, Michael, is, when I was a Twins beat writer, it's funny, I started covering the team, and TK was, Tom Kelly was just beloved in the state. He had won 2 World Series in 5 years, and I started covering them, and I covered them during a bunch of bad seasons with a lot of bad players. And the way some of the young players who would never amount to anything in the game would rip on Tom Kelly and his coaching staff was amazing, and they would never do it on the record. Well, actually, Todd Walker eventually did it on the record a few years later, but they would never do it on the record those first few years. But, man, it really opened my eyes when you'd have like a guy fresh out of AAA ripping on Tom Kelly who had won 2 World Series.
Well, wasn't it the Clippers owner that was like taped by his girlfriend or something in his house, and it was like created this? We all have this expectation of privacy, and it just shows you there's no privacy anymore. The other night in San Francisco, I went out to dinner with the CEO of the Athletic. I mean, we were at dinner, we were talking about stuff, talking about the Athletic, talking about life, talking about this. If somebody had a tape recorder on that table for the hour and a half, 2 hours that we were sitting together, I'm sure there's a lot of things that we probably said that we wouldn't want out there publicly. But that's just, when you're at dinner, you talk honestly with somebody, and that's just the way life is. And unfortunately, these guys got into an Uber with a stranger that absolutely betrayed their expectation of privacy, and it is a shame. But on another subject, it just shows the underlying major issues that are with that horrible franchise right now. And I cannot even imagine what it must be like to be that assistant coach today, having to run a PK meeting with these guys that just absolutely just torched them. It's going to be an unbelievable situation.
Absolutely. Let's get to Joel Quenneville. Were you surprised?
It's funny. I'll say this. I picked him as my first coach fired in our athletic poll. But you wake up today and, they haven't played in a couple of days, and you're a little shocked that he was fired today. And now it'll be interesting what happens. He's not done. I mean, I'll be honest. when Bruce Boudreau is fired from the Minnesota Wild, he's probably done as a coach. He's going to be, right now I think he's 60, or by the end of his contract, I think he'll be 67. You're probably not hiring another 67-year-old coach to a long-term deal, especially going into potential 2020, work stoppage